Hi guys, welcome to another card crafting video. I have 3 mini slimline cards to show you today, and it's been so long, it seems like it's been so long, since I've pulled out my colored pencils, and I'm going to be using some colored pencils on Kraft Cardstocks today. I'll use 3 different brands of colored pencils and 3 different brands of Kraft Cardstock. The stamps I chose are from Stampendous. These are some that I just picked up online on scrapbook.com. This first one is a mini birdie banner, it's called. These are cling rubber stamps. They're a little bit thicker than the regular clear stamps I use mostly, but I just loved these images. The second one is called Mini Snowman Reach. And then the third one is Mini Tree Cottage. I just love this little scene. And this will be a landscape mini slimline card. So let's start off with the cute banner scene. I'm going to be using some new cardstock from Spellbinders. This is called Dune. And I've never used this with colored pencils before, so I wanted to give it a try. It's a really pale Kraft cardstock. It's a nice heavyweight cardstock. I believe it's 100 pound. And I'm going to cut it out with a mini slimline die. This is from the large die of the month back from July of 2021, but it's called Mini Slimline Envelope and Nested Card Creator. It was such a popular one that they still have it in their shop. So I pulled out my Misty to use with this, and these stamps are kind of different. I've never seen this before. It has acetate as well as a cling film on it. I almost ripped off the cling film from the stamp because I thought it came off, but you have this little film on it so that it will stick to the door of your Misty. And I wonder if you couldn't cut it down so it's more narrow and close to the stamp, but I'm just going to leave it as is for now. I'm using some black ink. Any black ink will do, but I'm using Simon Says Stamp Intense black ink. And I do stamp this out about 3 or 4 times, but I'll just show one stamping. I'm going to keep the stamp on the door of the Misty so that when I'm done with my colored pencil work, I can stamp it again and freshen up the lines. It's very helpful to have a color chart of all of the pencils in your stash. This one I got from Sandy Alnock. This is also for my Prismacolor Pencils, and it is a 150 pencil set. You can also get it from Prismacolor for free, their online chart. I like this chart from Sandy Alnock a lot better because you can see the color better. It's a little bit larger, and she puts like colors together. So I'm going to use my brass bullet sharpener. I used to have a Big Daddy electric sharpener that I would keep on my desk. I like the brass bullet sharpener the best for 2 reasons. 1, it doesn't take up much space on your desk, and 2, it doesn't shave much off of your pencil. It brings it to a nice sharp point, but it's not wasteful. It just takes off a little skiff. So I think it's fabulous, and the price point is fabulous. It's like under $5. So I'm starting out by coloring the ribbon banner first. I used an orange color for my lightest color in the middle of the ribbon. And then I'm coming in with a pretty red tone. This will be my middle tone. I'll blend out the orange colored pencil a little bit. And then I'm going to come in with a really deep red. I'm coloring with a very light touch. I don't want to press too hard with the colored pencils. 1, because you don't want to make your hand tired, and 2, you don't want to burnish the paper or flatten out the tooth of the paper. It is a quick way to add deep, dark colors with your pencils, but you won't be able to layer over it and add that beautiful, rich dimension that comes with layering your colors and blending them out with different colors of colored pencil. My darkest pencil here is called Tuscan Red, and I'm just putting it on the ends of the ribbon. This will make it look like it's kind of curving down. I will be coming in with 2 or 3 layers of the colored pencil. Not only does this make it look richer, but I'm going to add a little bit of Gamsol over this ribbon in just a minute. and it helps if you have lots of colored pencil on your piece. Also, I forgot to mention that Prismacolors are a wax-based colored pencil, and the Gamsol does break down the wax in the colored pencil and smoothens it out a little bit. So the Prismacolor pencil set is a set that I just adore. I've been working with this set since I was a teenager taking art lessons. They're beautiful, creamy colored pencils, and the most affordable of the three that I'm going to be showing you today. I'm using Kraft Cardstock because there's just something magic about colored pencil on Kraft Cardstock. I just love that look. So this is going to be kind of a long-ish video because I'm showing you the coloring in its entirety. But at parts, I am going to put a little bit of music on while I color, and then I'll jump in here and there to explain what I'm doing. But of course, if you'd like to just skip ahead, please do so and check out the finished card. So the ribbon that goes behind the main three ribbons in the front, I'm going to color darker just because I want those pushed back into the background. So here is my Gamsol. The L is missing off of that Gamsol. I've had this for a long time in my stash. It just lasts forever. All you need is a brush or a paper stump and just the teeniest little bit of Gamsol. I'm starting in the center where it's lightest because this will move your colors around a little bit. And then I'm drawing it out into my darker colored pencil work. I like this thin brush. I used to use paper stumps, but I like the brush a little bit better. It's easier on your hand and wrist, and it's just smoother. It doesn't ruffle up the paper, and I'm not worried about the paper peeling at all. So I put the lid right back on my bottle, not only to prevent me from spilling it, but because this is stuff you're not going to want to sit and breathe for long periods of time. So I put the cap right back on. And then once it dries, you can go back over it again with more layers of colored pencil if you'd like. Another alternative to Gamsol is baby oil. And to be honest, I've never tried the baby oil. I just prefer the Gamsol. And since I put the lid right back on it, I'm not too concerned about the fumes. I also like the Gamsol because if I get a little droplet of it on my paper, it will dry up and totally disappear. You won't even know where it had splattered. Next, I'm going to color in the mistletoe or the ivy leaves. And I'm starting with a chartreuse pencil. This will be my lightest pencil. Usually I put the lightest colors at the tips or around the veins, but this time I wanted to make the leaves look kind of glowy. So I'm putting the lightest color over the veins. And then I'm coming in with my medium tone green around it. And again, I'm pressing lightly on this so that I can add lots of layers. And then I'll put my deepest or darkest tone around the edges, and this will make the leaves appear like they're curling down. It'll give it some really neat dimension. I'm not going to put any Gamsol over the leaves or anything else on this card. I just wanted it on the ribbon to make it appear silky like a ribbon. I really like the look of the colored pencil, and I like people to be able to tell that my work was done with colored pencils. It's just a really charming look. The berries are going to be white with a little green highlight with a really pale green pencil. And then there's a little bit of snow on the berries, so I colored them in with white as well. So now I'm moving on to the middle ribbon. And again, I'm starting with the orange in the middle, and then the lighter red, and then the darkest red at the edges. Okay, so I left the bird for last. Birds are challenging for me to color in, but this time I'm using a reference photo of a bird. And I'm starting with the lightest color first and working my way to the darkest color. So I put white on its belly and under its wing, and now I'm bringing in a pale blue color. And then I have 3 different pencils that are cool gray. The cool grays have a more bluish tone to them, so they pair beautifully with blue colored pencils. And then to bring in the orange from the ribbon, I'm adding a little bit of the orange, the same orange colored pencil that I used on the ribbon. And then I'll slowly add the shadows to the bird using the darker cool gray pencils. Okay, so here it is all done. I do come in with the lightest cool gray pencil and softly color around the leaves and the banner. But now we're going to pop this back in the Misty and freshen up the lines. So this can be a scary part because sometimes I do misstamp. Not very often, but once in a while, after all of the hard work, I will misstamp it and just totally mess up the whole piece, and that can be very sickening. So just be very careful that it's lined up in the corner of your Misty. I'm inking it up and then stamping it down. I do this about twice, but it sure is worth the risk, I think, in my opinion, because it just pops once you restamp it. I'm going to add some white gel pen just for a few added highlights. The gel pen makes the piece pop even more. I do like to put a little dot in the bird's eye. And then I'll put some on the bird's back and tail, and even on the banner and some of the leaves. The gel pen I'm using is a white Uniball Signo pen. This one is my favorite. I'm going to add a little bit of gel pen even to brighten up the white snow on the berries. It's a really great and inexpensive tool to have in your stash. To mat my panel, I'm using a piece of Poppy Field red cardstock from Spellbinders. And I'll attach this to my mini slimline card base. And this measures 6.5 by 3.5. The die I used to cut out this panel is really fun because it has dots along the edges, and you can see the red cardstock from behind the dots. So I'll center this on the red cardstock. And here's a close-up look at the finished card. You can see the cool gray pencil around the leaves and the banner a little bit better when I hold it up close to the camera like this. But it just adds a pretty touch. And now for card number 2. Again, we're using the mini Snowman Reach stamp. And the craft paper I'm using is from Nina Desert Storm. It's their 100-pound craft. I cut this out using a mini slimline die set from Trinity Stamps. However, you could just cut it out with your paper trimmer too to the size that you'd like. That works just fine, of course. And then I'll stamp it up with the same black ink. I'll stamp this up several times. And again, I'm going to leave the stamp on the door of the Misty so that I can freshen up the lines again after I'm done with the coloring. But I really love the look of this snowman and the little cat that's kind of peeking around the side of him. The colored pencils I'm using this time are my Faber Castells. I keep them in this really cute acrylic pencil holder. I have this set swatched out as well using the Sandy Allnock chart. She has charts for a lot of different brands of colored pencils, and there are 120 in this set. So this is the die that I cut my panel out with, the Trinity Stamps Mini Slimline die. However, if you do not want to buy the large set of pencils, you can buy them in smaller sets like 12, 24, 36, and so forth. So if you just want to try out a particular brand, you can definitely buy a smaller set. I'm going to start with the Snowman himself, and I'm using my Prismacolor white pencil. I love Faber Castell pencils. However, the white Faber Castell pencil is not good. I don't know why. The Prismacolor white pencil is rich and creamy and puts a nice layer of white pigment on the paper. And the Faber Castell one does not. It's not pleasant to work with at all. So I do put a few layers of white on my Snowman. And again, I'm not pressing down hard. I'm just slowly building up the layers. I'll put 2 colors of orange on the carrot nose, and then a dark gray for the black coal buttons. Then I'm using a light blue for the shadows. And the stamp is nice because it has little dots where there needs to be shading. This Snowman is wearing 3 scarves. So I'm going to start by coloring in the striped scarf with some blues, a green, and a white. I'm putting down a base color, and then I'll go back in with a darker shade of each color to add shading to the sides of the stripes, and it just makes the scarf look more 3D. I'll have all of the colors listed over at my blog if you're interested in knowing the exact colors that I used. I think the hardest part, at least for me, for starting a colored pencil piece is choosing what colors you're going to use. And again, it's nice to have them all swatched out so you can see what they look like and go from there. But even then, I'll change my mind on the colors and grab different pencils. The second scarf is just going to be orange. And then my third scarf is pink. Again, I'm putting down my lightest shades first, and then going darker from there, and adding in my shadows. And here is the finished piece. However, I do go back in and darken the cat a little bit. I just didn't like those 3 lines I put down his forehead. So I turn him into a dark gray cat. I'll put this back in my MISTI, very carefully lining it up to the edges or butting it up to the edges. And I'll re-ink the stamp and freshen up these lines. I'm very happy to report that I didn't have any misstamping happening in this video. So here he is, all done. I'm going to mat him with a piece of wild berry cardstock. Just went really well with his hat and red scarf, a reddish pinkish scarf. I left a white border around this piece. And then again, I'm just going to adhere this panel down flat with some dot liner. I like to be really generous with the dot liner. Off camera, I add some white stickles over the dots on the snowman's hat. And I also put some glossy accents over his berry fingers and his nose. This stickles is called Frosted Lace, and it adds some really pretty sparkle to the card as well. Christmas cards need a little bit of sparkle or glitter in some form, I think. And I didn't end up putting a sentiment on my second and third card. I will do that at another time, but I just wanted to focus on the colored pencil work today. The glossy accents go on opaque, but they dry clear, so it's a really pretty touch. And here it is all done, minus the sentiment, of course. And there's the cat that I redid. I think he looks a lot better without those 3 stripes going down his forehead. It kind of looked like goofy hair on him. And now for card number 3. This set is called Mini Tree Cottage. I'm using the same set of dies from Trinity Stamps called Mini Slimline dies. And my paper is Stonehenge Craft. It's a little bit darker than the other 2 papers I used in this video. The colored pencils are Caran Luminence. I have 2 sets. I have the set of 76 that I keep in this little pouch. This is a nice little pouch that I can just keep on my desk and pull out the colors I need. And then this set is one of their newer sets. It's just called their Portrait set or Assortment. And I really loved the colors in that. I used the scalloped die to cut out this panel. And I thought this card was going to be really fast, but it ended up taking about as long as my other 2 cards took to color. There are so many trees, and I wanted to color each and every tree just to make this scene as colorful and as cute as possible. I'm using the same intense black ink to stamp out this little scene. And of course, this is going to be a landscape orientation mini slimline card. Okay, so let's get in with the coloring. Now, the Caran Luminence pencils are the most expensive sets that I have in my stash. And I'm using their white colored pencil. Their white colored pencil is really lovely and pigmented, as you can see. So I'm going to color in the snow first, and the snow on top of the cottage. For each tree, I picked out 2 colored pencils, mostly in the greens and the teals. I have about 4 different green combos that I'm going to be using on these trees. And I'll use the same color combo on 2 trees. I just have a lightest and then a darkest for the shadows. I'm going to mat my finished piece with some Lagoon cardstock. And I'll leave a white border around this card as well. I almost forgot to restamp this panel. I go to put the dot liner on it, and then I remember I need to pull out my MISTI again and freshen up the lines. So this Stonehenge Kraft Cardstock was my favorite of the three to work on with colored pencils. It has more of a tooth to it, and it just pulled the color off of my pencils beautifully. It was just very satisfying to color on. And I think if I had to choose one set that was my absolute favorite of these three colored pencils, it would be the Faber Castell colored pencils. Recently, I was working on another card using the Faber Castell colored pencils and this Stonehenge craft, and they just pair beautifully together. The pencils went down so creamy and nice. So the Faber Castell pencils are an oil-based pencil, unlike the other two, which are wax-based. And then my number 2 favorite colored pencil would still be the Prismacolors. I love those. And then my 3rd favorite would be the Caran Luminence. All 3 are just beautiful sets of colored pencils, so you really can't go wrong with any of them. As always, I'll have the products I use listed in the description box. I hope you enjoyed this video. I sure had fun pulling out my colored pencils and playing with them. It's been a while, it feels like. I hope that I inspired you to pull out your colored pencils in your stash and play with those. Or if you're interested in trying out colored pencils, you could buy a smaller set just to kind of dip your toes in the colored pencil water. I really don't think you'll be disappointed. I think you're gonna love it. I hope you have a wonderful day, my crafty friends. I'll be back again really soon with another video. Bye!